Good morning. This is the IDP 411 with my co-host, the Dynasty Chef and 50 Shades of Drunk, Jordan Range. How you doing, guys? We're a proud partner of the Expand the Box Score Network podcast. Oh, yeah, man, I can't even talk this morning, guys.
It's all good.
Expand the Box Score Podcast Network. We're there.
Yeah,
We're there.
it's early. It's early, guys. We're trying to pump this content out for you so you can have it, and review it and kind of start preparing for next week. So it is early in the morning for us. I'm sure some of you are still sleeping, but we are happy to be here. We are happy to do it. We're going to go back. Last week we had a little different format. It was just me and Steve. We're happy to have Jarod back. We're going to kind of jump back into our old format, which is kind of break down the top performers from Sunday and Thursday. So far, we will take a glimpse into what Monday night holds for us. But as for now, we're just going to go ahead and take a look at these defensive linemen or these edge rushers and how they performed yesterday. Looks like your top performer was Joey Bosa. Not really a huge surprise to anyone that has Joey Bosa. Dude's total monster. He had 4 solo tackles, 2 assists, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. That is quite the expansive box score resume for Week 7.
Yeah, man, he killed it. I mean, he just went after it. Kind of expected it. Tennessee's not stellar, to be honest with you.
No, yeah, their defensive line is garbage. They're playing with I don't know if you called him their backup or their starting quarterback. One of their
I would say Ryan
quarterbacks.
Tannehill's played much better than Marcus Mariota. That seems like they've moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mariota, he had his helmet on the sideline. He was ready to go. He was happy to be there.
I mean, he's still getting paid. So I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the safest way to get paid, stand on the sideline.
Mhm.
I'll just read off a few of these top performers real fast. There's a couple of guys I want to highlight. Alex Okafor, we don't talk about him a whole lot because he's kind of plays second and third fiddle for Kansas City, but he had a big game this week. 4 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, a forced fumble. Frank Clark, it's funny, there's 2 of the 3 first top performers at defensive line are Kansas City guys. Frank Clark finally has a game. 5 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. So
yeah, it's a good thing their defense did show up with losing Pat Mahomes.
yeah, they won. I mean, their defense kind of picked up the mantle as soon as he got off the field, and they just took over that game. Didn't let Joe Flacco do anything. Geno Atkins had a good game. 2 assists, 4 solos, 2.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. Justin Houston had a big game. I had him a little high in my rankings this week. I was kind of glad. There were several guys I had high in my rankings that show up here. I had Nick Bosa in my top 10. I had Joey Bosa in my top 10. They both had big games. Nick Bosa ended up with 5 solos, 2 assists, 4 tackles for loss, a sack. Yannick Ngakoue didn't do a lot in kind of your bread and butter stats. He said 2 solos, but he did have an interception he returned for a touchdown. So that boosted his score. He ended up being a top 10 defensive lineman.
Yeah, I was watching that game, and then the highlights. I don't know who was it. Terry Bradshaw butchered his name.
A lot of people do, man.
And he's like, I don't even know what to say here. Like, he didn't even know what to do.
A lot of people butcher.
It cracks me up when he butchers their names. He'd be like, isn't that what I said?
Aaron Donald showed up again this week, had a pretty decent game. I mean, not, massive game, but he did have 2 solos. He did have 1 sack, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. So, I mean, those
and
are
a tackle for loss.
Oh, yeah, and tackle for loss. Don't want
He had a pretty
to
good
take
game,
anything
man.
away from him. Yeah, he had a good game. It's good to see him show up 2 weeks in a row, kind of in a positive spot. DeMarcus Lawrence, here's another guy that doesn't show up in a positive area very often this season. He had 2 solos, 2 assists, 2 tackles for loss. He had a sack. He had and they had a forced fumble, so he ended up pretty high. Cameron Jordan, kind of similar thing, not a great number of tackles, just 2, but he did have 2 sacks. J.J. Watt had a okay-ish game. How did he end up so high? He had 1 pass defended and 3 solo tackles, not really much else. 6 QB hits.
Yeah, he had
that's where
6
it is.
quarterback hits.
So if you're getting points for those, he showed up here because of that. Those are some of your bigger performers at defensive lineman. Daniil Hunter had an okay game.
For me, it was nice to see Jeffrey Simmons in his first game. He was drafted high, hit a torn ACL, comes up. His first game playing for Tennessee, he had 4 tackles, solo tackles. He had 2 tackles for loss and a sack. So,
yeah,
it was nice to see that. He's one of my
one of your guys, one of your rookie dudes.
My Dapper Dandies. He's one of the new kids. So
yeah,
I love having rookies show up. So
Tennessee defense has got some sneaky good guys for IDP, kind of sprinkled in there. He's a rookie, like you said, so he's someone probably not on a lot of people's radars, but definitely I did see that sack he got yesterday. I mean, he looked good. He looked athletic. He looked big and scary. So
he is not small. So
yeah, and he looked very, like I said, he looked very athletic for a big guy. So
yeah, it's nice to see him come back from ACL in his first game, and as soon as they activate him to actually, hey, I'm your first round draft pick. Here I am.
Yeah, and he played a good number of
snaps. I
snaps.
like when I see that.
Do you own him in any leagues?
I actually do own him in 2 leagues. Nice. I actually picked him up a week ago because I knew that nobody was going to take him. In a dynasty league, I picked him up, and I was
going to say that's kind of where
my IR list, and I pulled him off IR.
Nice.
And I actually had to play him because I have Sheldon Richardson
bye week.
He was on a bye week, so I'm like, he worked out for me, so I'm okay with it. I actually started
tough this week.
Another rookie that we'll talk about in a little bit. So,
yep. Josh Allen showed up. Top 20 finish, 2 tackles. What we got here? 2 tackles for loss. He had 1 sack.
He continues to just ball.
He is very consistent on a team that has a lot of good defensive linemen, guys. I think that, it's crazy, but Jacksonville definitely got away with one. I don't know how he should have been a top 3 pick, but he ended up going like 7 to Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, I think it's just more. I was a little surprised that Ed Oliver went before him, personally, but I think it's because of Buffalo scheme.
Yeah,
and that's why. Because they would have put him as an edge more than anything else. Mm-hmm. And he fits well in Jacksonville's defense. And like I said yesterday, he's really good off the side. He's the main reason Kentucky won 10 games in his last year at Kentucky. And, he had like 100 tackles. That's stupid.
That's yeah.
So,
that's crazy.
he competed, very well. He's a baller, and I think he's going to continue to play that well. And it's cool. He is listed as defensive end, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
instead of linebacker.
He's one of those rookie guys that if you've had your eye on him, and if you've been paying attention to us, we've been kind of on him. Not that a lot of people haven't, but a lot of people as rookies, you're a little hesitant to play, but he's been a consistent play every week. I have him in one league that I've been playing him since week 2 or 3 as my edge rusher too.
Someone who's played well, and it's just funny because he got released and picked up. Is Taco Charlton has played pretty well at Miami since he's went there.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask what you thought about that.
It's pretty. I love. Sometimes kids just need to change the scenery, and he seems to definitely have that at Miami, which. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because nobody else in Miami is good, but he has played very well since he's gotten there. He's been a pretty consistent down lineman since he's been there. He had a pretty good week this week. He had 3 sole tackles, a tackle for loss, an assist, a sack, and then he had like 4 quarterback hits. So
yeah, he filled up the stat line.
He had a pretty good game. He
should be there.
Yeah, one quarterback hit and then like 6 sack yards. So he had a pretty consistent game overall. Obviously, you and me, Jordan, have been on Sam Hubbard, and he continues to play well. He had another 4 tackles.
He hasn't had a boom week in a while, but know what? It doesn't
4 tackles and a tackle for loss and
2 pass defended too. So if you're in a league,
I'll take that all day.
I'm in a couple of leagues where pass defenders are like 4 or 5 points. So that right there gave him almost more points than a sack would have. So, and he had those in like the first quarter too. So he was sitting pretty decent all game.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he would have gotten a sack that really would have, put him over the edge, but you can't win them all. So what are you going to do?
We talk about guys who have big games and not big games, or in case we talked about Jerry Hughes and Adrian Phillips yesterday. Adrian Phillips was the guy yesterday for them, it seemed like. Or sorry, not Adrian Phillips, Jordan Phillips.
Jordan Phillips, yeah.
Didn't have a big game. He had 2 solos and a sack. So, but
he had a forced fumble too. So that
he did have
helped.
So I mean, he had a decent game of the group. I really want Ed Oliver to just step up. He's got a tackle, a tackle for loss, a sack.
Yeah.
A quarterback hit yesterday. I mean, he basically had one thing on every stat line, but he only had one. So
for all the hype he had, he's doing stuff. Not much stuff though. He had a lot. I mean, in the community too, there's some people that there was guys that were saying they drafted him in the first round of their IDP rookie drafts and stuff, but like mixed, with like your Marquise Browns and your N'Keal Harris, like they're saying they took him top 5. And
I mean, you know me, I've been a real high on Ed Oliver since the beginning. We've talked about him numerous times, and I knew that they were going to use him a little better than he was used in college. However, there's no way I'm going to take a defensive lineman in a rookie draft in the first round,
especially a D tackle.
Yeah,
like, that means you passed on Nick Bosa. That means you passed on Josh Allen. You passed on Montez Sweat, Brian Burns. I mean, all these guys are just lighting it up.
Not to mention the linebackers.
Yeah, exactly. Not to mention Devin Bush, you walked right past. So I feel kind of, I don't know. I feel like people, I mean, you kind of have to, you made your bed, you have to lie in it now. I told you that, I said on yesterday's show, I don't know if we were on or not, but Ed Oliver was, he was drafted in the 4th or 5th of one of my rookie IDP Dynasty leagues. And somebody dropped him a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't notice. I only noticed because I was looking at waivers and somebody had picked him up. So, I mean, that's kind of where people are, the people that aren't grasping him, with their dying breath are kind of at with him. So, the general public's like, this guy might be good, but maybe it's time to look elsewhere. So, kind of sucks, but maybe he'll come around eventually. And, Miami, that's a perfect match, too. I mean, he should have had a big game. So, it kind of sucks that he didn't blow up. Not saying he won't eventually, but just not what you're looking for, really.
Okay, let's get into defensive backs. There's some players that showed out yesterday, and one in particular, and something that we kind of plant our flag on yesterday because we had somebody ask on our show.
Yeah, on the live.
Von Bell or not. And
we said, hell no, don't sit Von Bell.
Exactly.
And Von Bell ended up as the number 1 defensive back on the week. You're welcome.
7 solos, an assist, a tackle for a loss, quarterback hit, pass defended, forced fumble, and a fumble recovery.
He's got like a shit ton of fumble recoveries and forced fumbles.
Yeah, man.
Too. Like, I think he's up to like 3 or 4.
Yeah, he's in the play, in the right place, right time.
A lot, yeah. He might be the best defensive player on the Saints right now.
Yeah, which is, and they've got, it's funny how many Ohio State players.
Oh, yeah, it's really kind of weird, actually.
Yeah, and some teams are like that. They like a certain brand of team.
All right, listen to this.
Weird at all.
Listen to this. He has a career in his 16, 17, 18, 19. And he's been in the league 4 years. This is his 4th year. He has 6 fumble recoveries. 4 of them have been since week 3 of the season.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's so funny. You can't really project that kind of stuff, but talk about catching that hot streak. I mean, if you're playing him, love it.
Well, yeah, and that's something we talked about a couple weeks ago. We're like, listen, if you're going to play him, and we realized how many snaps he was getting, and we talked about it earlier in the season. Like, listen, and he's going to have down weeks. And he had 2 weeks where, back-to-back weeks is why Brandon had asked us, hey, should I play this guy? But the teams that he played against are teams that don't give points up to safeties. Like, listen, if there's 2 weeks you're going to give him, lay back on a guy. It's these 2 weeks. And I told him that. And then he asked, should he play? I'm like, listen, this is a good week for him. And you said he's a good week for him. Steve said he's a good week for him. And sure enough, he had the number 1 week. Another guy that came back last week, I'm all about guys coming back and showing out, is Patrick Peterson. 7 solos, a tackle for loss, a sack, and a forced fumble, a huge forced fumble. I know he got a game ball. I watched the highlights. So to come back and have a game like that after you've been gone from suspension for 6 weeks is pretty cool for that kid. And he's real. And let's be real, Patrick Pierce is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, period.
Oh, yeah. Dude's an absolute beast. He always has been. He doesn't usually show up with a lot of stats because people usually try to avoid him. But looks like yesterday, Daniel Jones was not.
Got that new kid. He thought he
doesn't know better.
He's like, watch this, guys.
let me throw in the rain against the best quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just kind of funny. Another guy, Marlon Humphreys, number 3, who we've been asked about, like, hey, who do we thought would do well? And Marlon Humphreys been pretty consistent. I mean, he might have choked out Odell Beckham a couple weeks ago, but he had 4 solo tackles, an assist, 1 half tackles for loss, a fumble recovery, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
So,
Marlon Humphreys had a decent game. The touchdown pretty much saved him. The rest of his stats are kind of, middle of the pack. But
yeah, I mean, I'll take 5 tackles and a tackle for loss out of a cornerback all day, though.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the guy that was your expected player of the week for defensive backs was Logan Ryan. And
start of the week. Maybe
5 solos, 3 assists, a half tackle for loss, 3 passes defended, a 4. I mean, Logan Ryan very easily could have been player of the week.
He almost had an interception too. I mean, one of those.
He had 3 pass defended, and 2 of them should have been picks, to be honest with you. So
he had a good game. He's playing pretty good this year.
I don't know why guys are targeting him. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. Both those, he had 2 pass deflections in the end zone. Like they were like throwing his way like intentionally. So
yeah, it's crazy how they're targeting him, and he's such a good corner. So he's one of the best defensive backs in all football, and that's including safeties right now in fantasy football. So if there's a guy you're going to target as a corner, and I'm sure Patrick Peterson's available, I don't expect most quarterbacks to target him like Daniel Jones did. They're not that,
Yeah, but he's still a playmaker. It only takes one,
Yeah.
So, a couple other guys had good games. Ronnie Harrison had a good game. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had a good game. Both of them are safeties, one for the Saints, one for Jacksonville.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a guy that, just kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. He had 7 solo tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit, 2.
Is he a rookie? I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to double check.
I mean, I have all
if he's not, he's like a second. Yeah, he's a rookie. I kind of thought he might be.
Yeah.
They drafted him in the 4th round this year.
Yeah, he was a good pickup, man. He's a good kid. He went to Florida, played really well for it. He's not a big guy. He's only he's 5'11", 210 pounds. I mean, he's nothing huge, but I mean, so far he's only started 1 game, which was yesterday. He's got 13 solo tackles, 7 of them yesterday. 3 tackles for loss, all yesterday. 2 quarterback hits yesterday. Pass defense yesterday.
I think he's somebody that you might want to go check your waivers for.
Yeah, for sure. I know that
if he can secure a role.
I mean, to take over a starting role and do what you did that first week, he's kind of like what I think all of us expected Nasir Adderley to be. And
he's been a major letdown.
He really has, and you'd expect him to have a big opportunity where he's at. And
they
haven't given him the opportunity.
He must be hurt, or he must really be struggling. I mean, that's all I can think.
A nagging injury, and then he played in the preseason, balled out in the last preseason game, and then
he crushed to that last preseason game. I ran out because I had drafted him, and then I just had to move around some guys to get some other guys on my team, so I dropped him. And then he goes out there and did that, and I was scrambling to get him back on my team, and then he's still he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, so I mean, it happens.
Looks
I know
like
it's not a few guys, but some guys that I'm pretty happy about.
Von Bell played 100% of snaps yesterday, and then Gardner Johnson played 91. So they're both listed as strong safeties, but I imagine one of them was playing a little more free safety.
Yeah, it definitely seems like.
But that's probably gonna be a hot waiver ad this week if he's on your waivers and you bye weeks are setting in. There's only 2 teams on bye this week, just Cowboys and Baltimore.
Could have had a better, had the best game of the two. The difference is one had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. That was the difference in the 2 players. They both had 7 tackles.
Mm-hmm.
So
they both performed very well.
Yeah. So I'll take that. Because
Tracy Walker
had 3 tackles for a loss.
Tracy Walker had another big game.
Mm-hmm.
So he got hurt. I wanted to ask you about this. I didn't get to watch that game actually.
Did he?
He got injured. I don't know if he came back. I'm guessing he did because
I was looking at the injury stuff this morning before we hopped on here. I didn't see him on there. I was watching that game yesterday or watching it for the corner of my eye. It seemed like he was involved in every major defensive play. That dude is everywhere.
He's been one of the bigger surprises of the year, I would say, for most people. Was a big ad. Has played really well. Another guy, the dude from Houston, who kind of came out of order because of injuries, is Pierre Desir. So he had a good game yesterday, 6 tackles.
Funny story. My fiance's best friend, apparently this guy, he's from St. Louis, and she's went out with him one night a couple months ago. She came down and was hanging out with us. She's like, "Oh, I hung out with some NFL player," and I was like, "You're full of shit." She's like, "No, his name's Pierre Desir," and I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, he was super cool, blah blah." I'm like, and this is right after he got a contract. I don't remember if you remember in this offseason, he got a pretty decent little contract from the Colts.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, he was talking about how I was like, "I know who he is," because I was like, it was in the news, so he just got paid. She's like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Yeah, he got paid." And I was like, "You were just hanging out with him?" She's like, "Yeah, I was just talking to him at the bar. We went out," because she's like friends with somebody who's friends with his wife or something. And I was like, "I hate you." I was like, "Call me next time that happens."
Exactly. Yeah, that's legit. Kind of good to see guys come up, who get a contract year, have something like that, and then actually do something.
Yeah, Jordan Poyer, I told people not to play him this week or to not expect a lot, but because it was Miami, and I didn't think he'd get a lot of tackles, but he went out there and had 7 solo tackles, 2 assists, and that's for a safety. That's all you really need to show up for your team.
Mm-hmm. Didn't he have 2 tackles for loss too?
Yeah, 2 tackles for loss as well, and so sorry guys if you benched him because I said that. I do apologize. I still had him ranked fairly high, but I was not playing him yesterday just because I didn't expect that much production to come from playing against Miami.
Well, that's okay. I benched Jesse Bates, who's right with him, and had 8 tackles, 4 assists on my bench, and took a flyer on Monte Nicholson, who let me down. So
yeah, Monte Nicholson, I played him in a couple of spots. He did not have a great week. You know who had a not great week is Justin Reed for Houston. What happened there? Did you guys watch that game?
To be honest with you, he's a guy that has been balling out, and I've actually been pretty upset about trading because I traded Terrell Edmonds for him, or I traded him for Terrell Edmonds, and neither one of the guys. Obviously, Terrell Edmonds had a bye last week, but Terrell Edmonds has been a huge letdown since then, and Justin Reed's played really well since I traded him. So it wasn't a straight trade. It was a package deal, which is the only reason I did it, but.
Still, it's weird because you expect him to. I expect him to have a giant number of tackles every week because he just usually does, but he just didn't yesterday for whatever reason. It was weird. Right before that game started yesterday, me and my brother-in-law were he was looking at the Vegas numbers, and he's like, "The Colts are favored to win," and I was like, "You're kidding me!" And Vegas had the Colts favored to win by 1.5, and then they beat Houston, which I did not expect at all. Really weird.
I kind of expected it.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Colts are pretty good this season.
Colts defense is pretty solid, and they had Darius Leonard come back, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But
Jesse Bates led all defensive backs with 8 solo tackles yesterday, so I do feel bad for you there, buddy.
Yeah, that was tough, man. To be honest with you,
quite a few guys that had 7 solos. Sean Williams, Justin Reed, Jordan Poyer.
Well, Harrison Smith had 8 solo tackles too.
Who?
Bleedy Ray Wilson from Atlanta.
Yeah. I see that.
Kamal Ishmael also had 7, or they have 6. He had 6.
There was quite a few guys that had 7. One of my favorite guys, I bring him up a lot, is just Harrison Smith. For whatever reason, a lot of people kind of don't really like talking about him for IDP. I mean, they say he's not. I've always heard the saying, he's a better football player than an IDP
I'll take
player.
7 solo tackles out of a player all day long.
Yeah, and that's just like this week. And usually he shows up in other spots. Usually he's got passes defended or half a sack or, fumble recovery. So, I really like him. And he's honestly, in all of defensive football, he's literally my favorite player to watch on the field. I don't know if you guys see him. He reminds me
Smith more. Well, yeah, I mean
Harrison Smith.
He's always there, right? So.
He plays like every snap. The way he like stalks the field. Like there's nobody else that it's kind of like how like when you see Mike Evans line up on offense, like he has that very sort of Mike Evans stance. Like his arms hang real low and his legs real far back. Like it's very distinct. Like Harrison Smith, when he walks around the field, like he's like the scariest looking dude. Like he just looks like he's going to be wherever you are. Don't want him to be. He's going to be there. It's, he comes up to the line. He's crouching. He's backing off real fast. I mean, he looks like a cat, like a jaguar out there. And I love watching him play. I might get me a Harrison Smith jersey.
Ooh, look at you.
Might do it.
Guy, before we have a few more guys I want to talk about, Marcus Peters on his first game after being traded had a pick 6, which he didn't have a monster game.
No.
Overall, I mean, I actually had a pretty decent game now. I look back at it.
But a pick 6 is a pick 6. I mean, especially if you get the yards.
The thing is, it was a perfect time for him to have it. So he had 1 solo tackle, but the interception for a touchdown is what really made the day for him. And it was a huge turning point in the game. I mean, it was Russell Wilson's first interception of the year. So that was a big deal for him. Another guy that I want to talk about, and I actually posted about him on Twitter yesterday, is Marquise Blair. Had his first start, had 4 solo tackles, 4 assists, and a pass deflection. But the funny thing about it is there was really 3 or 4 plays where they could have been called pass defendeds, where he got a hand on the ball or he knocked the ball away. I don't know how they weren't pass defendeds, but he really had 3 breakups. So instead of just a straight pass defended, but he had 3 breakup plays. I mean, and it was his first start of the season.
Yeah, he had a couple of big blocks too, or like just kind of disruptions. They didn't go in a stat line, but like things happened in that game because he was close to the ball. And I'm sure you saw that too.
Yep. And that's what I like to see out of somebody who gets their start. So 2 guys that we talked about, rookies getting their starts. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who might be a hot ad this week.
And Marquise Blair. These guys, yeah. I'll be checking your waiver wires for both these guys. I'm going to personally in all my IDP leagues. There's only a few where I really need guys like that, and they're kind of deeper. But definitely in my dynasty leagues, I'm going to be looking that way. Might be trying to move some of these other dudes that I have on my bench.
Maybe Von Bell's a guy that you go after. He's right now after this week is a top 4.
He'd be tough. He's going to be tough to get though, because I imagine whoever's got him's a Saints fan. I don't know if you've ever met a Saints fan before.
Like Brandon, who he said he almost dropped him, and if he had dropped him, I'd have picked him right up.
Oh yeah, I wish he'd get dropped in my league. The guy who owns him, I know, my one league is a Saints fan. Saints fans are very loyal. They're very pro Saints.
I wanted to ask you before we get to the next subject. Yesterday, you were talking about a trade. Did that trade go through?
Yes, I ended up trading Roquan Smith for Quan Alexander, and I got him to give me a second for next season. So I was very happy. You got a
second round pick?
Yep. So, well, I was looking at the dude's roster. He didn't have any first. He had like 6 second round picks, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Bro," I was like, "What do you want for one of these?" And I just sent him a counter and he, if you guys watched the live cast yesterday, we talked a little bit about trade. I had a guy send me Quan Alexander a 4th and a 5th for next season for Roquan Smith in my dynasty, and I countered with Quan Alexander in a second, and he took it. He took it like 15 minutes before the game started too, so I had to like I was in the car like on my way to go to the bar, and I was like, oh shit, I was like, I gotta make sure I put somebody in this spot because Roquan's gone now. So I'm happy. I'm happy the trade went down. Quan Alexander's only 25. I mean, I'm gonna get a few more good years out of him. He's on a good defense, and I got a second round pick now. So maybe we'll get me some Chuba Hubbard or something next year.
I mean, it seemed to work out for you. So I don't know what we were talking about. And I was actually interested to see how it went through. I actually made a big trade yesterday. I got a defensive player 2 out of it. But I actually traded Jayon Brown, Patrick Mahomes, and Jarvis Landry for T.Y. Hilton, Antoine Bethea, 2 other players.
Yeah, I was in the car with my brother-in-law, and he's not in any IDP league, so I was like talking to him about it. He's like, I want to be in a league like that. I was like, yeah. I was like, dude, I was like, this was a massive dynasty trade, and I was like, and there was nobody involved that or any of your fantasy teams. I was like, doesn't that feel weird? He's like, yeah. I was like, it feels so good to like have so many more pieces in an IDP league, like where things like this happen.
In this one league for I don't know 12 or 13 years, but it's just a normal fantasy football league, and I'm going to talk to the commissioner, who's my uncle. Like, listen, we need to do IDP, and otherwise, I don't know if I can play in this league anymore. Like, it's
so boring.
I'm going to make playoffs again this year, but dude, let's have some fun and add some players. Let's
add some variables.
One defensive player, right? So, like your standard NFL league, I'm like,
do like 3 or 4, add 1 DL, 1 linebacker, and 1 defensive back, and fuck it. Then just put 3 fucking IDP flexes.
Yep.
I mean, just start whoever the hell you want in those spots. I mean, that gives you 6 new players right there to dish and to start.
Yeah, so, my NFL league, which is crazy, you can start. You have to start 2 defensive linemen, which can be an edge rusher or defense. You can start 3 linebackers and 2 defensive backs.
Oh, my NFL league.
It's a big league. So
we start 11 on both sides.
Yeah, that's that's a whole lot. I mean,
I like the MFL, but I wish they would get
50 roster spots with 5 in IR spots and 5 taxi spots.
Nice.
That's great. That's a big league.
Yep.
Nice.
All right, let's get to our linebackers / edge rushers. Let's go. I'm going to list the first top 10, and then we'll go to the top 20, and then we'll talk about it. Number 1, Chandler Jones. Number 2, Dante Fowler. Number 3, Anthony Hitchens. Number 4, Reggie Ragland. Number 5, Blake Martinez. Number 6, Bobby Wagner. Number 7, Terrell Suggs. Number 8, Deion Jones. Number 9, Darius Leonard. And number 10, Eric Kendricks. Some surprising names on this list for me. Reggie Ragland, number 4. And Deion Jones finally showed up at number 8. Eric Kendricks has surprisingly played pretty consistent this year.
He's had a great season. I'm glad we were talking about him. I actually, one of my guys that's in my IDP Dynasty League, I put up my rankings last week, and he was on Twitter, and he asked me about that. He's like, why don't you have Eric Kendricks on here? And I was like, bro, I was like, for real, I was like, you're right. I was like, I'm looking. I was like, you're probably right. Like, I should have him higher on here. I didn't have him on my top 24. And I was like, I should probably swap him and Fred Warner out because Fred Warner's been having a just okay season. And, I mean, he was right. I mean, Eric Kendricks showed up again yesterday. He's 6 solos and 6 assists. I mean, that's 12 total tackles, tackle for loss, and 2 pass defended. And we talked about this on our show, on our other show, the IDP Hour, on Thursday, that, Eric Kendricks and Corey Littleton are kind of like the premier, coverage linebackers right now. I mean, they can get to the ball and deflect a pass like crazy. Like they're good at it, on top of the fact
linebackers and do what they're doing is,
and did you see in both those pass defenders, he almost were interceptions
should have been interceptions.
Eric Kendricks, yeah, he's a very fluid linebacker, and he seems he's a very capable linebacker. I mean, and the way he plays, and the way he's been playing this season, that's on me. I have not been showing him the respect he needs to have. I traded him in the offseason to this guy, the same guy who was giving me shit on Twitter. I feel kind of dumb about it, but whatever. You can't win them all. But I wish he was still on my team. He's crushing. I don't think I have him on any of my teams, actually, now I'm thinking about it. So I might have to go make a play. But he had a great game. It's funny to see the linebackers for Kansas City on here because I don't think they've ever had a good game this season. But
yeah, Reggie Ragland popping up. And we were even talking about it during the game, me and somebody else, like, what's Reggie Ragland doing? Like, he didn't have a monster game, but I mean,
he only showed up really because of the sack. I mean, he only had 2 total.
For fumble recovery and a touchdown.
Oh yeah, shit! I forgot. I forgot about that.
So
a long time ago.
He played a lot of snaps. That's what we were talking mainly about. Like, a little surprising. This isn't, this is not an indication of what's to come, guys. Reggie Ragland has not played well.
Yeah.
Overall, there's a reason why he got traded. There's a reason why he hasn't been playing. So.
Yeah, Anthony Hitchens had 2 sacks.
Anthony Hitchens.
Fumble. He had a good season last year, tackle-wise overall. I mean, he was a solid lowish in linebacker too, but this year he's just been
Yeah, he's not what I think you would expect out of their starting lead linebacker, but he finally had a good game against the team that we really didn't expect that many quarterback hits against because man, they got after the quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, they crushed. I mean, they have 8 or 9 total sacks in that game. I don't even remember. It was a lot. I mean, we already talked a little bit about Frank Clark popping up.
They break the record. They had 9 sacks in the game. So
yeah. So we had Alex Okafor and we had Frank Clark show up on the defensive line edge rusher part, and then now we had both these guys show up, and they're showing up mainly because of their sacks and their extracurriculars.
We didn't talk about Hill and Tyrann Mathieu both played pretty well in that game. I think Tyrann Mathieu had a sack.
I think you might be right. He's been a little disappointing to me this year, but I don't know what to.
He's had a very up and down season for sure. Okay, other guys, Terrell Suggs can list as an outside linebacker, really an edge rusher. Chandler Jones, also outside linebacker, and Dante Fowler, all listed as outside linebackers. Let's be real, these are guys, they're edge rushers, all had really good games. Chandler Jones had had 4 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 5 solos.
A forced fumble as well, a fumble recovery.
A forced fumble and a fumble recovery. 4 quarterback hits. He had almost 30 points in fantasy. For most leagues, some people get more points for quarterback hits. Basically, if you had Chandler Jones and if he lost, there's problem. You must have been playing wrong.
You must have been playing against Marvin Jones.
Yeah. Like me, I was playing against a guy who had 2 players do anything you're saying was Marvin Jones and Aaron Rodgers. Thanks.
Marvin Jones does this every year. Once a year, he just pops up with like this insane game. Like,
it was upsetting. Dante Fowler had 6 solos and assists, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, a pass defended, a forced fumble. He had a monster game.
Yeah, and I started him in a league. If I randomly put him in too because I saw I had Jayon Brown in, and I saw that he was like questionable. So, like literally, when we were on the live cast yesterday, I flipped in Dante Fowler, and boy, oh boy, am I happy I did.
Yeah, he got it balled out.
And, it's something to watch there, too, is that Atlanta line. They're kind of letting a lot of sacks bleed through lately. I don't know if you kind of noticed that either. Yeah, and that's kind of why I was like, because I was between him and Derek Barnett, and I was like, I think Fowler has a chance to have the bigger game, and he did. Aaron Donald had a good game, too.
Atlanta has 4 players or maybe 5 players on the entire team that are going to take up 51% of the cap next year.
Matt Ryan, Julio, Grady Jarrett.
I mean, let's be real. Matt Ryan has not been that great since the Falcons haven't been that great since.
The Falcons have not been great. Well, here's the Falcons' problem, in my opinion. One, they need to get rid of Devontae Freeman. It's not 2015 anymore, and people keep acting like it is. Like
he's one of the guys that's a big quarterback, big cat.
He was one of those first big running back contracts to get divvied out, and it's just like, just get a younger dude, and let's just stop trying to like force this square peg into a round hole. You know what I mean?
And I don't know if you saw the running back classes that I put up over the next 2 years is ridiculous.
I'm drafting whoever the Chiefs draft, and I'm drafting whoever Atlanta drafts. I've already decided that.
Yeah, for sure. And there's some good players. Over the next 2 years, you've got players like Chuba Hubbard, The kid you got Taylor from Wisconsin, who people are saying might be the best running back to come out of Wisconsin.
You got Dobbins. You got Etienne, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Etienne.
Yeah,
ET.
Etienne. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
bunch of dudes coming out these next couple of years, and I mean, I don't even watch college football, and I know that this class is supposed to be good. So
Yeah, it's going to be a stupid class over the next 2 years, and even just next year's class is going to be really
running
good.
back class.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, their big problem though is that their defense is just Deion Jones pretty much and Grady Jarrett. I mean, Tack McKinley, big letdown. Vic Beasley has been a big letdown since his rookie season, pretty much.
Yeah, Keanu Neal's been injured 2 years in a row, both season injuries, and he's a big contract guy too. So,
Deion Jones is a big contract guy too now, and he's really not putting a lot on paper. I mean, he did have a decent week this week, but I mean, we've talked about him several times on this show as a guy you should be trying to sell.
Yeah, he
I
finally showed out this week, but really, it's because their offense couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not because necessarily anything he's doing. So
I can't believe how bad for as much talent as the Falcons have, especially on the receiving core and tight end.
It's got to be Dan Quinn. I mean,
I feel bad. I mean, he took that team to the Super Bowl and hasn't done anything since then. I mean,
did that team take him to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Did Kyle Shanahan take that team to the Super Bowl?
That's what it really is. I'll completely agree with you.
Yep. I mean, look at what the 49ers are doing now that they're half healthy. I mean, they're stomping people's faces.
They didn't look good offensively yesterday, but I mean,
true, but they didn't have to, and they still won. You know.
Okay, let's get to our next 10. Corey Littleton, number 11. Number 12, Lorenzo Alexander. Number 12, tied with him, LJ Fort, who I really like, who got a chance to play yesterday. Number 14, Bernard McKinney, Jordan Hicks, Rashawn Evans, Nathan Gary, Vince Beagle, Miles Jack, Khalil Mack, and Whitney Merciless. Whitney Merciless is on here because of his 3 tackles for loss.
Yeah,
he had a half
fumble
sack
recovery
and a fumble recovery. That's why he made his list. That's why, but that's what he's been doing is big plays.
Yeah, you can't pull him out of your lineup whether you're sliding him into a D line or a linebacker spot. I mean, he's good enough to always be played.
He's gonna have a big play somewhere. I mean, for some reason he's there.
Hassan Reddick had a pretty decent little game.
Hassan Reddick did have a decent game.
I've been on him. He came up on the show yesterday, the live cast, and he's one of those guys. I mean, he's slowly just been creeping up the ranks. He's got the draft capital built behind him from a few years back. I don't know if you've watched him. I'm sure you watched him in college, but I mean, I've watched his college highlights. I mean, he looks like a world beater. He just hasn't shown up in the NFL quite yet, but his stats are slowly catching up. Tremaine Edmonds had a pretty okay-ish game yesterday. 8 total tackles.
Danny Trevathan had a quiet game. He had 7 solos and 3 assists. I mean, I'll take 10 tackles out of a linebacker all day.
Yeah, I was playing against him, so I wasn't mad about it. My start of the week at linebacker, Alec Ogletree, kind of let me down. I mean, he's still a top 40 guy, but he only had 8 combined tackles and no extracurriculars, as I like to call them.
Wesley Woodyard had a decent game coming, considering Brown was out.
Yeah,
he had 3 tackles. 3 solo, and then he ended up having a forced fumble. He had a forced fumble too. So he had a pretty good game overall. It's nice to see Tremaine Edmonds back in this group. He had 5 solos, 3 assists, and a tackle for loss, which he's been a big letdown overall this year. I really thought he would be a big player this year.
Yeah, especially after what he did last year. I expected him to take a leap. It seems like his overall stats might be right on par or maybe even a little under what he did last year so far. So not the most exciting thing in the world, but I mean, he's still in Dynasty. He's a must hold. He's so young. I mean, the sky's the limit for him. So
Ryan Kerrigan had an interesting game. 2 tackles, 2 assists, 2.5 tackles for loss, a half a sack. Not huge games. I mean, let's be real. He hasn't been very good this year. He's actually been a pretty big letdown, considering. Yeah. But it's actually nice to see him in a stat line. One thing I did want to talk to you about, somebody got a stinger. Leighton Vander Esch got a stinger yesterday, and Sean Lee, and him getting some playing time, and him getting 6 tackles, or 6 solo tackles, and a pass defended, as well as an assist. So he had a pretty decent stat line last night as soon as LVE went out. So
yeah, I'm gonna monitor that. Hopefully, he can get. It's nothing serious.
It seemed like just a stinger, but if you guys know anything about Leighton Vander Esch, he did have a back and neck issue in college. So
definitely want to watch it.
Yeah, definitely have to keep an eye on that for sure.
Yeah, there was a couple other small injuries. Darius Marcel, D tackle for the Jacksonville, he left with an abdominal injury. Darius Slay left the game with a hamstring injury, and Tashawn Gibson left in the first quarter with a back injury.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. I mean, because the person who's athletic has a back injury.
And I think what's crazy about that is I think I saw it. He got hurt, and then he was back in the game, and he got hurt again, if I'm not mistaken. So I remember being like, why didn't you all just pull him out and leave him out? But I don't know. They didn't.
Anthony Barr, we were talking about. Somebody asked about him yesterday. He had 4 tackles, 3 assists, and a pass defended, I believe. Maybe a quarter. Yeah, and a pass defended. He didn't have a great game, but he didn't have a bad game.
Yeah.
Roquan, I mean, you trade him. He had 7 tackles.
Yeah.
And a pass defended. He didn't have a great game against New Orleans. And I honestly think Danny Trevathan, for ADP wise, people bought high on Roquan, and you got Danny Trevathan real low. And I've been saying it since the beginning of the year, the better deal is Danny Trevathan, and it continues to show that way every week.
Oh, yeah, especially in the redraft.
Yeah.
Especially.
Let's go back up a little bit. Let's talk about the guys. Vince Beagle was a surprise for Miami. I didn't have a monster game. 3 tackles, 2 assists, a tackle for loss, a sack. That's what made him have a big game for being a linebacker.
Yeah, it's
Nathan
hard to
Gary had a big game.
Yeah, he came up a couple times yesterday on the live cast. Linebacker for the Eagles, right?
Yep, our boy Russell, kind of playing his flag on him yesterday. He's like, hey, I really think this guy's going to be a good play. And, we agreed. We thought he would be a decent play this week against Dallas. And he had 7 tackles, 4 assists, and a half a sack.
11 total tackles is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that all day. So 11 tackles. Rashaan Evans, again, has played very well since Jayon Brown going down.
Rashaan Evans has been playing good all season, and he's a guy that kind of a similar situation to what we're kind of saying with Danny Trevathan and Roquan. It's like you drafted Jayon Smith probably 3, 4, 5, 6 Jayon Brown. Sorry, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds before Rashaan Evans got picked, and I mean Rashaan Evans is outperforming him in IDP points this season, and he's out snapping him too. I was looking at that this last week. I was writing. I write an article every week for Dynasty Nerds, and I was doing some research, and Jayon Brown is averaging just under 80% of snaps, like 79 on the season, and Rashaan Evans is averaging like 80, 89. So he's almost 10% more of the snaps overall in the season, and the IDP numbers support that too. I mean, he's having a little bit better season than him.
Yeah, Jayon Brown's not having a bad year. He has had some lingering injuries.
No, yeah, he's had a really good year for sure. It's just worth noting, that
the ADP aspect. I agree.
Yeah, and I got Evans on a couple of waiver wires too, even after week 1 and week 2.
Yep, Wesley Woodyard's a guy you might want to target too, as well, with Jayon Brown being injured.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise of the day, I would say overall would be LJ Fort. 5 tackles, an assist, 2 tackles for loss. And I believe he had a sack as well. Yeah, and a sack. So, did he have a pass defended? No. I don't think. And a quarterback hit. So, LJ Fort from Baltimore with Onwasser and everybody getting injured.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll take 5 tackles on assist, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack all day from a linebacker.
It's kind of hard to pick who you wanted to play there.
There being 3 or 4 guys. But actually, the cornerbacks and safeties are the ones who showed out in that game. So Earl Thomas had a big game. Like we were talking about, Marlon Humphrey had another big week. He's been pretty consistent. He's been a 15-point guy average out of a cornerback. To get 15 points out of a quarterback every week, that's crazy.
That's legit.
So Lorenzo Alexander, in Matt Milano's absence, it seems like when somebody gets injured, Alexander just comes up and starts playing really well. I don't know what it is about the guy. Had 5 tackles, 5 solos, 5 assists, and a tackle for loss yesterday, as well as a pass defended. So I'll take
tell
that.
You what, these Bills, they're 5-1, right? 6-1, 5-1. I guess they had a bye.
Or did they have 6-1? I guess you're right.
Yeah, and I mean, same thing with Baltimore. I mean, these two teams.
To have your only loss to the Patriots too in a close game,
and you shouldn't have really lost either.
And you lost the quarterback for the last quarter and a half.
If Josh Allen would have stuck through that game, I mean, I think they have a good chance they would have won.
Yeah, it'd have been interesting. It was a fun game to watch.
Probably hot takey because it's really it's popular.
And that's another thing to look. They have a favorable schedule coming up, so.
Oh, yeah. They're going to finish the season probably with only 3-4 losses max.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be one of the better teams in the division. And they've got the defense to back
it up. They're going to have their second loss to the Patriots because nobody wants to play the Patriots in Foxborough late in the season. Nobody.
Yeah. Josh Allen ain't scared.
Well,
we've been arguing about Josh Allen since the
you and me have. I mean, he's had an okay year. He ain't blowing up by any means.
Well, he doesn't have to win. I mean, you don't want to take it easy on the arm. He's waiting for the playoffs.
The dude has a cannon. He don't need to take it easy on the arm.
He's got a cannon. He's got some legs. He's got some. He doesn't even have any pieces around him. He doesn't even have any pieces around him, and he's just stringing together dubs.
Yep.
I love him. I don't know what it is about the guy. I love the way he plays. I love his kind of attitude. He's kind of got a little chip on his shoulder, but he's like not like a douche like Baker is. Like he's just like,
whoa, bro, leave my dude alone, bro.
Screw you, Baker.
You got to throw some shade.
Yeah,
let's get that dude in offensive line again and see what happens. So, another guy that we continue to talk about, Blake Martinez.
Dude,
8 solos, 8 assists, a half tackle for loss,
LB1,
and a forced fumble. This dude is ridiculous.
And people were kind of, I'm going to say dumping on him, but I mean, like, he just did not get the respect he deserved in drafts this offseason. You kind of knew what you were getting, but people, they went for the LVEs. They went for the, Kuechly's and the Bobby Wagners and the Deion Joneses. And, he ended up going in that kind of later part of that top tier of guys. And if you got him, I mean, he is leading the pack right now, and he's leading your team to the promised land probably. I mean,
16 tackles in one game is ridiculous.
I know he's had a couple of 14 tackle games this season too this year. I mean, he's just by himself.
We get the 12 solo tackle game too, right? And we were like, I mean, this guy's ridiculous, man. I mean, we had a question yesterday said, so somebody trade Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers finally had a game over 20 points last week. Or had a solid game yesterday for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
He had a ridiculous game, really.
Yeah, amazing game.
But he asked about getting Blake Martinez and Leonard Fournette for Aaron Rodgers in a dynasty league, and I'm like, yeah. If the IDP aspect is high, and he said it was, then yeah. I mean, Blake Martinez is Mr. Consistent and consistently a beast.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's basically, him and Luke Kuechly are in a spot all their own, which I'll be honest with you, I'm actually going to try to go for Luke Kuechly this week.
Yeah, it's a good time to go get him because didn't play this week, so people are
having a bye week. Somebody's like, they don't think about it.
He didn't do anything for me last week. Yeah, no joke.
But I think I might have to give Corey Littleton up for him.
I might probably do that.
But thing is, I mean, it's close point wise. Corey Littleton has got him beat because of this week, but I don't have to worry about Luke Kuechly going on another bye. So
yeah, true.
So I don't know. I mean, it's just for the rest of the year, so maybe it's a big move for me. We'll see what kind of happens.
Yep. Overall, it was a good week for IDP. A lot of spots, a lot of guys had good games, a lot of guys you wanted to show up showed up for you. you had a few guys like DeMarcus Lawrence who have been kind of quiet show up last night. So overall,
well, I mean, they had the Eagles head coach talking smack,
did
guaranteed win.
Yeah, they guarantee
yeah.
to win this. Yeah,
Oh
that worked
yeah,
out.
That's not smart.
no, didn't work out so well.
But yeah, I think that pretty much closes out what I have to say. I'm still in a couple of leagues. I know I won some, I lost some. I mean, that's how fantasy goes.
There's some pretty big games today.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a big game today. A lot of people have. I mean, I'm down by 0.4 points.
There's Jamal Adams is coming in tonight. Quinnen Williams, C.J. Mosley.
Yeah, C.J. Mosley getting
Brian Poole. Then you got
Jamie
all
Collins,
the Patriots guys. Yeah.
All the Patriots guys.
Yeah, all
Jamie
those
Collins.
dudes.
Jamie Collins.
Jamie
Another
Collins.
question is Stephon Gilmore the best cornerback in the league right now?
Maybe.
It's close. I mean,
we'll see if he can
he's
handle
basically
Robbie Anderson
shut everybody
tonight.
down he's played.
We'll see if he can handle I'll see if he can handle Robbie Anderson tonight. See if he can get past that jet lag.
So let's start thinking, who's going to have a better game, Robbie Anderson or Jameson Crowder?
Robbie Anderson, I think. Because Robbie Anderson can,
whoever's not guarding, whoever Stephon Gilmore's not guarding, that'll be the guy.
I think Robbie Anderson reminds me a lot of the rise of Tyreek Hill, where it's like he's a big play guy and he's a deep threat guy, but he really is a lot more than that. It's just that's not what we choose.
He's got good body control. He really does.
And it's taken a while. It took about 2 years for people to really see that Tyreek was all that. And then, Tyreek has burned the Patriots multiple times, all those dudes.
Well, everybody that doesn't follow college football, I would say.
So I think there's a chance for Robbie Anderson.
I hate Tyreek Hill.
Robbie Anderson could take a leap today, especially in our minds as a guy that, if he can go out there and if he puts up 70 yards tonight, I call that a big win, because there aren't a lot of guys that can do that on the Patriots at wide receiver. He might make a little tear jump tonight in our heads and our hearts. So we'll see. I don't think Gilmore's he's a great corner, obviously, but I think that sometimes there's like this intimidation factor that comes with playing the Pats too, where your quarterback.
I'll take this bet. Whoever he guards, which will probably be Robbie Anderson, Stephon Gilmore wins tonight.
We'll see. We'll see who has more fantasy points.
I'm with Jared.
I want to talk about the shutdown. That's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. All right, for me, that's it. I appreciate you guys as always. It's been an early morning, but that's what we do here. So, pump that content out.
Yep. Check us out. We will be, we do another show on Full Time Fantasy Podcast Network, a little bit different vibe, same guys. We talk about the upcoming week a little bit, some rankings, but this is our other show, the IDP 411, where we kind of break down what happened the week before. Check out Expand the Box Score. They have some awesome stats over there. Some premium stats. They have some interesting ways you can sort through your stats too. And if you're into college football, I'm not super into college football. I know Jared is. They have a lot of really, really good shit for college football that you can't find other spots. So
I would say they're the premier network right now for college football statistics, and it's pretty awesome for me to watch personally. I'm a big college football guy, so
yeah, very clean cut, very well organized. Good stuff. So check them out. Tell them we sent you over there. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that. And,
that's what we're here for.
Yep, and we'll be back next week, guys. We'll be back next week. We'll be week 8, if you can believe it. We're over the top of the hill, and we're going to be heading on that downward slope. So
crazy.
Start prepping for the playoffs and all that. So,
all right, let's go.
Take it easy.